everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Get Wealth Podcast. I'm your host, Brennan Wiersma. Today I have TJ Vicio Day on the show, and I'm super excited to get into this one because typically, we talk about real estate investing and how to build wealth, and this is in that avenue, but there's quite a bit more to this one than your average real estate podcast, I think. So super excited to get into all of it, and thanks for coming on the show, man.
Thank you very much for inviting me, man.
So I want to start out with your background and where you come from and, kind of how you got started on this path, because it seems like something that's so uncommon. Like I really haven't heard of someone doing this business model. So what's your background and how did it lead you to where you are?
So my background is not in real estate whatsoever at all. I went to Johns Hopkins University. I was studying to become a neurosurgeon, and I got a degree in behavioral biology.
Wow.
Behavioral biology, the study of human biochemicals and how they relate to actual behaviors and actions. So I remember when I was back in college, I actually wrote a whole thesis paper. It was supposed to be a 5-page paper, turned it into a 65-page paper on Maslow's hierarchy of needs. That essentially what people are taught as basic human needs isn't even accurate. And we could talk a little bit more about it, but the main idea is that there's a whole other level of needs that doesn't get acknowledged, right? It's called the transcendence level of needs, and that paper was discussing that. You fast forward about 10 years later, I had taken the MCAT, which is the medical college's admissions test. It's kind of like the SATs, but for becoming a doctor. And I got a perfect score in the psychology section of the MCAT. So when I looked at my scores, it was like, wow, okay, literally perfect in psychology. The other scores were great. They were 85th, 90th percentile, but I was like, wow, if I were to double down in the psychology aspect of things, I could really, really be one of the best in the world. So I actually decided to not become a doctor, instead become an entrepreneur. And this led to me forming my own marketing company. Over the course of time with that marketing company, I was able to make enough money that I had about 150 grand left in my savings account that I could use to buy my own house. And even though I was already renting out a house that was, it was on the water in a gated community, what would most people consider a mansion. When my daughter was born, at that time, she was born in bed after a 24-hour delivery. And there was this huge winter storm that hit us that very night. And this meant that, the very next day, I've been a dad for less than 24 hours, and I couldn't provide heat. I couldn't provide water because there was no electricity as well. I also couldn't heat up the food. I didn't have any guns, so I couldn't provide protection. And then I allowed the HOA president to basically barge into our home uninvited. And because I was in that HOA, I couldn't actually do anything about it. So basically every main job as a father that I could provide, I couldn't actually provide it, even though I was very successful as a marketer and had plenty of cash and was living in a great neighborhood. So at the time I thought, well, I've got all this cash in the bank. Let me just use that as a down payment. I can get a house, even if it's $1.5 million, I can put 10% down, right, to get a nice house. So even with a $1.5 million budget, and I couldn't find a freaking house that could just help me with what I'd gone through, right? So that's when it just kind of all clicked. It was like, wow, you've had this idea on Maslow's hierarchy of needs for 10 years. You're one of the best in the game when it comes to psychology. You know that there's a market opportunity. You have skills in competitive analysis to know that there's something here. Why don't we build a company based off of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, an offer that isn't just within real estate, but instead is based off of human psychology, and that helps people fundamentally take care of once and for all every one of those basic human needs that exists. One offer that provides all the food, shelter, water, heat you're ever going to need. One offer that provides a better relationship for you and your wife and your children, where you can spend time with them more and teach them more. One offer where you have the esteem of a community that you like, you trust, even in the worst situation possible. one offer that teaches you to really activate all the best parts of yourself as a father, one offer that allows you to really focus on what's important in life and focus on your relationship with God, not just your relationship with with money and all of these other lower level things.
Hmm.
And through reverse engineering all of those basic needs, that's how I created Axis Centralized Real Estate as it currently stands.
Wow, what an origin story. Yeah, no, I get it, man. That seems like a great foundation to build something really important off of, because it directly affected you at one point. And so, it's not just like you had some idea and thought about trying it and then it turned into this. It's like, no, that, it basically was like a necessity almost, it feels like, to find a solution to the problem, which makes it even stronger. So just to kind of touch on that hierarchy of needs, I haven't heard that there's a different needs that isn't usually taught, and also the business model of having like your own homestead and everything being. I mean, that seems like it kind of follows the path of the normal hierarchy of needs. Is it?
Yeah.
What is that other layer?
Yeah, so for those who have never heard of it, right? Some people, people in our generation, they would have heard of it at some point in basic psychology classes. The main idea of Maslow's hierarchy of needs is that humans have a subconscious problem-solving mechanism in their brains. Like you ever hear that idea that, you only use maybe 10% of your brain at any given time? Well, that is true. Our conscious thoughts, they can only take in a certain amount of bandwidth at any given time, and our subconscious is actually processing things all the time. For example, you can pick up that coffee and drink it. You don't have to think about how to do it. You breathe. You don't have to think about that. If you're driving or if you're looking at things, you're processing so many bits of data at any given time, and you just don't have to think about that whatsoever. Well, in general, this problem solving mechanism has layers to it for what might be most important. And what these layers will feel like is it will feel like you're going to die if you don't get the solution to the next level, right? So at the very bottom of it is a very obvious need. It's just the need to get away from death, right? But like clearly, you're not going to just be, approaching death all the time, right? There's a basic need where it's just get away from dying. What happens immediately after that? Okay, well, after you get away from dying, you need to have some air to breathe. You need to have water. You can only last 3 days without water. You need food to actually eat. You need a place to go to the bathroom. You need a place to sleep. So that's the most basic physiological needs. The next level is what's called security needs or shelter needs. The easiest way to describe shelter needs is it's just the most basic needs, but in the long term. So are you worried about food long term? Are you worried about water long term, right? Are you worried about where are you going to go to the bathroom? Where are you going to sleep long term, right? Do you feel safe in general for the next year or so? You don't have to keep on migrating, right? Because if you don't have that, you're going to have to be nomadic.
Got it.
The next level after is relationship needs. Literally, do you have a partner to interact with? If you look at the Bible, the book of Genesis, God creates earth and he creates the heavens, and he creates all these different things. And every single time he creates something, it's good, right? So creates the animals, it's good. Creates the plants, it's good. Creates man, it's good. The first time we ever hear God say this is not good is when he sees Adam alone. That's really noteworthy. That's how important it is to not be isolated and alone. That's the first thing God says is not good for man to be alone. So,
No.
we have a basic need to have a mate, a partner, someone that we can have as a trusted confidant. And if it's not going to be that mate and partner, it better be some friends.
Hmm.
So, that's the relationship needs of things. The next level beyond that is esteem, that you actually have people that you like, that you trust, that you feel valued by, and that you're part of that group, that you really feel important and worthwhile to. If you don't feel worthwhile and important, that can drive a person to suicide, right?
Hmm.
It can be really, really bad. That's the important thing about all these different things. It can really cause a person to go insane if they can't solve this basic problem. After that, we have self-actualization needs. And this is where I say most people pause, right? So if you literally go to Google right now, you literally look up the term Maslow's hierarchy of needs, pretty much 9 out of 10 photos on there will stop at self-actualization. So we think of self-actualization, we think of a CEO making a lot of money. We think of Michael Jordan playing basketball. We think of Deion Sanders playing in the World Series and in the Super Bowl.
Sure.
But what I submit to you is that even if you look at Deion Sanders' speech, when he gave his Hall of Fame speech, he actually talks about the fact that he was suicidal during the time that he was in the World Series and the Super Bowl. Well, you can't have a completed theory on human psychological needs if you have a man who has reached the peak of his career, a self-actualizer who's talking about the fact that they are at the end of their life, right? There's a big contradiction there. And so when we look at many of these successful individuals, you just read their books and you see how they're sad at the end. It's because they need that next level of need, which is that transcendence level of need, which is a pursuit towards a relationship with God and the expression of the Holy Spirit through you in your everyday actions.
Mhm.
Now, what I discussed in my thesis was that not only is this level important, Abraham Maslow himself discussed this as the most important need. He actually spent his last 10 years of his life talking about this need, saying that it actually sets up all of civilization. You can't even understand civilization. You can't understand world religions. You can't understand anything without this level. And what I proposed was that the final level of needs is actually the flip of the initial 5 needs, and you actually go in reverse, right? So if we look at a person, a deep spiritual journey, if we look at heroes and legends, and if we look at the life of Jesus Christ or the life of saints, what I propose is that it is a direct mirror of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. So to review, get away from death, get your physiological needs now, get your long-term needs, focus on getting relationships, focus on esteem, right? Other people's opinions, and achieve the highest level of career. Now, what I'm saying is that the flip of it is, if at the end of it is basically perfectionism, it's like self-actualization. Let me be Michael Jordan. Let me get a 7th championship, an 8th championship, right? What I'm saying, the flip of that is to let go of the need of perfection, right? And start thinking about how you can actually help other people.
Hmm.
Then what I state is that if you go a little bit deeper, if esteem was there, right? Then the opposite of it is to actually let go of the need of other people's opinions, because you might have to fight against the status quo if you're truly going to be helpful as an individual in this sickened society. If the level before esteem is relationship needs and getting relationship needs, what I'm stating is that a true Christian path is to give love unto others, right? Regardless of what you're receiving, right? To actually just be emanating love. Then the next level beyond that, if it was security needs, is I'm saying, what if you, in emanating love to others, are actually not as worried about your own security, right? Because you're going to be triggering and you're going to be getting upset some authorities and stuff like that. And then at the highest level, we have saints, and beyond that, we have transcendence of even death, which is this story of Jesus Christ and the example that he leads for us, right? So if you look at this, right, the bottom of the triangle, right, the bottom triangle is a scarcity-based focus. This is when it is me. The ego takes in, and you're constantly focused on my needs, my things. And what happens with people in scarcity is at each level of need, they're very easy to trick. They're very easy to manipulate, right? Most products are there to get you to just this next level. And what it feels like to be at a certain level of need is, oh, if only I could just have this thing, then everything would be different in my life. That's what it feels like. That's the pattern, the subconscious pattern that exists within people's heads. If only this, if only that, if only I could get this, right? If only I could have this extra little dollar, if only I could have, this Tinder account to get me a girlfriend, if only I could have whatever it might be. Now, what I'm saying is that the other triangle, right, the flipped version of the hierarchy of needs, is a true abundance mindset, right? Someone who really actually is living in a place where it's not just about them, it's about giving unto other people. So the whole goal of Access Centralized Real Estate is present an offer that logically provides the solutions to these families such that they can escape the scarcity place of life, which ostensibly feels like hell, and live in a place where they truly have their basic needs taken care of. And in doing so, not have to obey authorities, not have to obey corporations, not have to obey these laws, not have to obey all these other things, but instead obey the one true, which is Jesus Christ as our leader and God as our Father.
Yeah, geez, that's such a different perspective than we're taught growing up. It almost seems like if you were put on a tinfoil hat and be like, all right, how would you want a useful population to act? You would teach them that like the first thing you need to worry about is yourself, and like the only thing that matters before you can think about anything else is like, getting shelter and all that. Where, if it's coming from the other way, that might cause some problems for, controlling a population. So I mean, that's one way of looking at it. And then also just as like a life model that is almost like empowering, because you're starting at the most important part, which is what everybody your whole life has been telling you. You have to wait and be the best in the world at some career before you can get there. So it's kind of like it kind of like flips the script, where it's like, all right, now I'm already in a position of like changing the world, because you're starting at the point that really matters. So that's on so many levels, I think, really cool way of looking at it. Was that something that you came up with, or is there research on this? Is this like a studied thing that other people are looking into?
I give glory to God that he actually inspired me with a lot of these different things, but it is based on actual real psychological research.
Wow, just completely flipping it upside down. Yeah, that's awesome. Okay, so I mean, I could go into that for like an hour longer. I think that's so cool. But let's go into the meat and potatoes of Axe decentralized real estate. So, I mean, and there's probably no way we can cover all of it, but the basic principle is you're giving people the opportunity to be self-sufficient, owning land and having a house that they can provide for their family and all that. So how does how does the business model work from like a business standpoint of like, how are you finding this land and raising capital and like the business from that side? And then what can someone expect to go through if they wanted to get into something like this?
Yeah, so we'll start off at the top. I like to make things where it's one offer that you can go deeper into. In the case of Access Centralized Real Estate, we have one offer that we focus on, and there's multiple income streams within that. So if you were to think about it as a funnel, it's like, imagine if I've created the world's deepest funnel that really truly the goal is for you to just say, you know what, this offer, this what we're doing is just better than all this other nonsense that exists out there. It starts off with the land. We straight up get the best land in the world. And I'm sure on a podcast about real estate and wealth, you hear about all these guys with all their little tricks on getting off market deals. And I sent mailers and I called this person up and I did the door knocking. No, I went complete Chad. I just go off the biggest, best, sexiest stuff that's listed online publicly. Literally, like I just go with stuff that you find on Holland Hall and Sotheby's and Christie's and land.com. And I'll go to a state and I'll literally put in the biggest land in the state and I'll look for the biggest, best, most beautiful land in that state. I don't care how much money it might be, period. Um, from there, we'll do some due diligence on it, make sure that that state allows for the legal subdivision of that property. For example, sometimes you have conservation easements, which I could go down a whole rabbit hole, but conservation easements are one of the most selfish, garbage tricks that have ever been played. They're terrible, and that's all I can say about that. But suffice it to say that we'll find lands that we can subdivide easily, and we will place an options contract on that land. That allows us the legal right to sell that land or pre-sell that land as we do the subdivisions. It doesn't allow us to close on the contracts, obviously, because we have to buy the land first. But if you can imagine a wholesaling double close, right? Where we buy the land and then we sell it immediately afterwards, just like normal wholesaling, but it's on steroids, right? So it's a double close, and instead of A to B, B to C, it's A to B, and we're B, and then B to C is C1, C2, C100, right? You have 100 different people that you're parceling it off to. Now, in having gathered pre-sales, this allowed us to gather investor capital. And I am not at the freedom of saying exactly how much we've been able to raise. All I can say is it's enough to make a person blush. That's all I can say about that. And it's enough for us to be able to expand this year to from 4 properties to 15 properties, every single one of these 15 properties being premier properties in their given states by the end of this year.
Holy smokes! So that's incredible. So you're basically showing the the investment, like you're basically getting the land and then raising the money based off of real data, people that you're pre-selling this to. So it's like, look, it's here. We're not just, buying some land and hoping it works. It's like, okay, we have the ability to, with the option contract, to get the pre-sale. So that's crazy. And then you're subdividing it out and then selling it to people based off of them being able to move off grid. Is that the way you're able to get these
Yeah.
pre-sales?
Yes, the cool thing about this model, and I learned this from Elon Musk with Tesla and really with SpaceX, right? I was inspired how SpaceX, their offer was ultimately that their efficiency in space travel was 99%. So in other words, like they only cost 1% of what everybody else would do. Our model costs about 1% of what everybody else might do in land development. Why? Because we're off grid, right? We don't have to put in sewage pipes, we don't have to put in electricity. We don't have to put in curbs. We don't have to put in asphalt. This allows us to move at an incredible pace and an incredible speed, like just unprecedented speeds. I think the average land developer, they're lucky if they get stuff done in a year. We did 4 properties for over 2,500 acres of land in under 6 months, right? That's like, that's crazy in terms of land development. Um, and because we've got a fully off-grid market, they don't care. They're not looking for the asphalt and the curbs and the sewage pipes and the electricity and the drainage pipes, all this other nonsense. They don't need none of that. What they need resources that we're able to go to third-party providers for and simply have partnerships with. So, for example, instead of having to worry about installing drainage pipes, we already have third-party affiliations with septic companies such as Sledgehammer Septic, right? And we don't have to pay for the Sledgehammer Septic. Like they just go with it. But for the end user, they've got a discount on the Sledgehammer Septic. So we don't actually install it for them. We just say, hey, if you were to go with Sledgehammer, it might have been $25,000. With us, it's only $15,000, right? That's a no-brainer for these families, and they are able to install it. These septic systems are actually contributing to their gardens because I'm not going to go into it, but main idea, it takes your poop, it takes the nitrogen in the poop and the pee, and it turns it into fertilizer. That's the main idea.
Wow. Okay. So when was the first one you've done this on? How long ago was that?
So we opened up our first property on June 22nd. That was Little G.
Oh, this last June? Like a year
Yeah,
ago?
this last June.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Crazy. And you're already operating on this scale. Like you're talking about like thousands of acres and stuff. Okay, so so you didn't start small and like kind of test it out on a one piece, or did you just like jump right in? Like how did you know this was gonna work?
So there's this one really funny thing that I did, which is okay. So if you ever watched the South Park movie, I found out that Matt Stone and Trey Parker, when they made the South Park movie, they would submit it into movie ratings, right? You know how you figure out like if it's PG-13 or R or anything like that,
Oh
or
yeah.
NC-17. Every time they would make the movie, they would submit it in, and it kept on getting NC-17. So what they did was they actually just made the movie like more ridiculous and bigger. So that they actually kept on doing that until it was just numbed out, and the NC-17 movie ended up just being a rated R movie. Well, I was kind of inspired by that. So we actually found more success the bigger we went. So when we went with like 200-acre properties, it was harder than when we just went with a 400, 500-acre property. So we just went with the larger properties and it was just way easier.
One of those things where the cost of doing it on 200 acres is like similar to doing it on 500. It's just on a bigger scale
Yeah,
margin.
it's just a bigger scale. It's just easier. It's just more beautiful. It's a bigger scale. It's just better. It's just better, simple.
Wow. Okay. So can you break down what somebody can expect when if they like say somebody just lived in the city their whole life and now they're hearing this and they're like, I have to reevaluate everything about what I'm doing and I want to get into this. What can they expect? Is it going to be like, you got to work, 10 hours a day on keeping the house going and you got to live off grid like they did when they were settling in America? Or like, can you paint someone a picture of what their life would look like?
Yeah, so yeah, it's you don't have to do any of that. It's actually pretty chill. Starts off with a person finds us maybe through a podcast like this. I recommend they go to our Instagram channel, then they go check out our FAQs. On the FAQs, I went on video and I answered 135 questions that were commonly asked questions that people were asking me, no matter how dumb they were. Like I even answered questions like, how do you get mail if you're off grid? How do you take out the trash? Even things like that. Right? So I recommend everybody to go through the FAQs. I actually don't have a sales team. There's nobody to get on a call with. My challenge to you is that if you can't just go on the FAQs and watch them and come to a conclusion on your own, you're not mature enough to join X. From there, you pay our $5,000 parcel reservation fee. This allows you to get in line for a state that's upcoming or to reserve a parcel that already exists on a property that we already have available. That parcel reservation fee entitles you to say, I'm staking my claim on this land for me because I'm gonna go and I'm gonna buy this. I'm gonna put this under contract, right? So now that you've done that, you can choose to either use a land loan to buy your land, or you could use a construction loan, which allows you to fund the land purchase and the home build as well. Really cool thing about construction loans is that you can pay interest only until your home is fully finished. So that gives you, a year or so of time just paying interest while everything else gets built up. The third option is to do our lease to own, which allows you to do basically seller financing. And it's about 2-year lease where we will say, hey, just pay in just like a rental, right? But the payments do go towards the final purchase price. And we do this for families that may not otherwise be able to qualify at the moment. This is giving them a chance to create income through what we call franchising. This increases what's known as a debt to income ratio, allowing them to qualify for financing later on because a franchise contributes a lot more to their final net income in a really powerful way. So now that you own your land, let's talk about franchising because this is a really powerful thing that we do. This is a differentiator compared to anybody else in the market. And that is that not only do we provide you the best land in the world, okay, at a minimum of 10 acres, but with our new properties, they're going to be 50 to 100 acres soon enough. We then provide to you a system where you have all the animals, all the infrastructure, and all the ranch hand assistant and all the equipment necessary to raise your own livestock, install your own food forest, and then sell produce from that land through our brand called Wanted Raw Foods. So imagine that you actually purchase with us and you decide to franchise with us. Then we will literally provide to you dairy cows, either Jersey cows or Angus or Wagyu cows for dairy or beef. And we have a ranch hand that will work with you to raise those cows. The ranch hand is paid off for the first 6 months with a fixed income salary, so you don't have to pay out of pocket for them at all. And then the rest of it, they actually earn from the revenue generated. And because they're actually splitting work with you and about an average of 6 other families, then on the revenue that they're earning for each family, they're earning 1/6. So it's 1/6 from each family, and they're helping 6 different families. Therefore, they're actually earning the equivalent income as the families that they're helping out. So they're making a great income, about 3 to 4 times more than the average ranch hand in the United States. Average ranch hand is making $30,000 to $40,000. Our ranch hands are making between $80,000 to $120,000. So they're good. And you consult with them, and they'll make recommendations based on hey, I think we should double down on goats. I think we should add more cows, or let's try out chickens, or let's add in some more of these fruits, or why don't we talk about honeybees? And we have a whole league called the Ranch Hand League where they compete to see who's the best producing, most humane, most healing ranch hand in the United States of America. So once produce is actually made on your actual farm, what it is it's submitted so that we have one brand called Wanted Raw Foods, and it's kind of like a co-op. Other models that are similar to this are actually Vital Farms. So if you go to Whole Foods right now, Vital Farms provides eggs for a lot of people who shop at Whole Foods. Okay. Well, Vital Farms is a collective of 300 families. They have chickens on all these different ones. They have requirements. You must have 108 square feet per chicken. It must be this type of breed of chicken. They must be fed in these types of conditions. It must be pasture raised, whatever it might be. Well, Vital Farms did $434 million in revenue just last year. Okay. For those 300 families. All right. So very similar to them, right? We're doing that same kind of farm collective model where it's like all these different individual farmers, right? But sold through one brand, except that what we're focused on is a direct to consumer dairy brand that literally brings back the milkman and delivers raw dairy, raw milk to each individual house. So that is our main play. And then we have the other stuff like beef and eggs as upsells later on. So suffice it to say, you buy in with us. Okay, you can do the land loan, you can do the construction loan, you can do seller financing, lease to own. Then you set up a franchise with us. Okay, then you have the franchise basically function on its own. If you want to participate, you can participate. If you don't want to, you don't have to. Now you can be earning an income on your land. You can use that income to fund a cabin build. We have partnerships with Bunky Life Cabins. These are cabins that for less than $25,000, you have a kitchen, you got a bathroom, you got a bed, you got everything that you possibly need. You can hang out there on the weekends, and they're very, very cheap. And you can hang out with them. In the meantime, you can build a very nice home because the income coming in from the franchises is designed to be enough to fund a very nice, basically $1 million home, right? The monthly payments for $1 million home. And now you can, you can just move into your nice home, rent out the cabin for an Airbnb.
Holy smokes. So the income you're making from your property kind of pays for the cost of even having
Everything.
property to begin with. So it's
Yes.
kind of like in a roundabout way, you're kind of getting it not for free, but it's interesting because you're
Yeah,
money
you have to
back
make
from
an
the
investment. You have to make an
yeah.
investment, yeah, but basically, yeah, if you do have the math, yeah, it's designed to pay for itself. As I said, it is literally one offer that's like, damn, this guy actually took care of all the basic needs right now.
Dang. Okay. And all right. So the other question I had, which you answered it, was how involved do you have to be with the ranch end process? So those guys, if you don't want to, they're just going to take it all over themselves because they're the professionals, kind of. Is that how that goes?
Yeah,
Wow,
yeah,
that is incredible. Okay, so how are more people not aware of this? It seems like this should be just, I mean,
right.
you only started a year ago now that I'm thinking about it. So, like, are you guys seeing just insane growth as far as like people reaching out to learn more about this and to get involved? Is it like, I imagine you just can't answer the emails as they come in.
Yeah, it's a balance between both. On the one hand, we get a flood. Every single morning I wake up to 50 emails or 50 notifications from people who are like, I need to be part of this. We
Yeah.
get messages from ranch hands. Our ranch hands, they come from the best of the best. Okay. I can't name names on exactly which ones, but all I can say is this. If they're a big name in farming and you can hear about them on a podcast like Joe Rogan, and if you can watch them on Netflix, if you can watch them on HBO, then I promise you they're flooding away from those farms to go join X. That's all I can say about that. Right. Without naming any names, but it's the best of the best. We're getting families from across the country that are joining in. The biggest thing that holds people back is by this point, I used to get mad about it. I used to kind of feel like, man, what's wrong with people? But now I just understand it's a human quirk. the biggest thing that holds acts back is people going, oh, it's too good to be true. Oh, it's too good to be true. And they just, they walk by sight, not by faith. But that's all right. That's all right. Over time, the way we say it around here is we're gonna just shove evidence down people's throats, and really be able to show people more and more and more. Like, we got 17 Wagyu in just the other day. We had the first we had the first birth of one of our dairy cows, like on our farm. Like that's amazing with our actual axe tag. I've got my own bunkies getting up and running. We're gonna have a video that will show me constructing my bunkie to show people that it's doable. That if me, my pregnant wife, and my 1-year-old and 2-year-old can put together a bunkie by hand, so can you. So
Oh,
we're really excited. Oh, sorry about that. Let me just
you're good.
make this is working. Here we go. There we go. So we're gonna just, keep on having evidence across the board for people as we get things up and running. Because the biggest thing that holds acts back is just, people believing, people having faith in us and having faith that, yeah, this is real. This is a true God-led project. And we're following through on everything that we said we were going to do. And it's not just some, people have this idea that, man, if something like this is going to be existing, it's so incredible, it's so unbelievable, it must be some type of scam. Like they just can't process it that it's real. It's very difficult for people to process this is actually real until they see the land, they see the cows, they see the homes, they see everything.
I think that's a good sign that you have a good product. If that's your biggest issue is convincing people that it's actually real. Sounds like you're on a good track. Now, I was going to ask
Yeah.
you, do you have a background in working with livestock or on being on a ranch? Like, do you have experience with this in a past life, or just all kind of new to you as well?
No, I don't. I don't. I don't. And the secret to it is this, right? If you look at, for example, Elon Musk is not a rocket scientist. But
Hmm.
what he does know is he understands how to build the machine that builds the machine. What I'm very good at is building the machine that builds the system, right? So I'm not a construction guy, but I am damn good at making deals for the construction people where they're like, it's a no-brainer. Of course, I want to partner with you because my superpower is in psychology, right? Same thing with the farming, right? I don't know anything about farming, but what I do know is how to create an incentive program that gets us the literal best farmers in the world, right? And makes them want to come in. They teach me stuff all the time. Like Clay, our director of ranching operations, that guy's a hoss. He's a G. He's a Don when it comes to understanding stuff. And he'll teach me stuff all the time. Hey, this is what we should check out when it comes to this part of the animals. Or have you looked into this type of rotational grazing? Or have you considered this type of feed? He'll feed me those types of ideas. So that's what I'm very, very good at. Just finding the people who are the best of the best of all of this stuff. So septic's another example, right? I don't know anything about septic, but I was able to find the people who are the best people in septic and just have them help me out and consult with me every single step of the way. And so that's kind of what I see myself as the captain of. It's the captain of the big vision, the big money, getting that capital in, and then getting the big people in that are knowledgeable and are the best of the best. And if you want to know, for anybody listening, if you want to know the secret to that, recruiting the best of the best, make it so that you have an opportunity for them where they literally can see their entire career being part of what you're doing, right? So that they don't feel in any way, shape, or form like a salaried employee. They do feel like an entrepreneur. They are entrepreneurs. It's just it's within this scope, if that makes any sense, right? So like when it comes to the construction, it's like, dude, you know, you, you've been second banana in your own company. You could have your own construction company just with an axe. You could do all the construction of all these people, all these different families. What a great opportunity. You never have to source leads at all. I'm your business partner and I'll do all the marketing, all the leads. You don't have to do nothing, nothing. Just focus on pure procedural stuff. Just get the stuff done. And you could make more and you could do more than you've ever seen in your entire life. Right? Literally right now, over 240 different homes waiting for you right now. If you're a construction guy, I mean, that's an incredible opportunity, right?
Yeah,
So it's kind of like,
it's a vision that's big enough for everyone to fit into. You've basically created
Yeah.
a vision that everyone can see where it's going, and there's plenty of enough of the pie for them to have their own piece and be happy with it. It have
Exactly.
you found some on that side of things as far as expanding that quickly, finding enough people to build these homes or to have infrastructure to kind of keep up with the growth? Is that something that people are just flying to, or is it difficulty there?
What I found, to be honest, I'll tell you the hardest thing about what I have to deal with on a day-to-day basis. With the success that we have, there is a feeling of, I don't know if you've ever seen the John Wick movies. And imagine being John Wick, but instead of everybody trying to kill you, it's everybody trying to take something from you.
Okay.
Like,
Okay.
that's the hardest thing, So we have no struggle trying to find like construction people or any one of these things that we need, right? If it's like designers or whatever it is. The problem is it's filtering through for the good ones.
Mm.
That's what's always hard, right? So it's like, for example, I remember the day I put out on Instagram, all it was I was complaining to my wife. I was like, babe, I can't stand, I don't want to do this. I don't want to send this one email out. I hate this, right? I shouldn't be doing this. I should have an executive assistant who does this email for me. So we put out on Instagram one post. It's like literally some B-roll that I took with my iPhone. I put a dark shadow background and I just put the words "we're hiring." That's it. And then in the caption, I said, "I'm looking for an executive assistant." We got 1,500 applications
Oh my goodness. How are you gonna filter through
from that post.
all
That's what I'm saying. I literally started joking. I was like, I need an executive assistant to filter through people
Yeah,
trying to become executive assistant, right? Because that's like a flood. And that's the hardest thing that I have to deal with. That entire flood of people at any given time. And we have different tricks that we have. For example, we would require people, okay, only message us. The reason I'm the perfect, like when you message us, you better start with the exact words. The reason I'm perfect for this position is, and so what would people do? Hi, this is my okay, you know what? You didn't follow the basic instruction. I already know this is not going to, you're not going to be right for this role. So there's different tricks that we have up our sleeves, kind of specificities and different things that we have that allow us to find the right people and find the right resources and the right talents.
that's incredible. Okay. A few more questions here as we're kind of getting towards the end. Um, as far as like the business model on your side of things, something that I
Mhm.
believe is that you get paid based on the value that you bring to the marketplace, and it just seems like the value
Yeah.
that you're bringing is off the charts, like on all aspects. You're helping the earth, you're helping people, you're helping everyone, and so I imagine that's bringing in some good money. Like, how are you getting paid off of this business model? Is it a cash flow model? Is it you're getting paid per build? What does it look like?
The four streams of income is number one from the actual land sales.
Okay,
Number two, from the franchise build outs. Number three, from partnering with people on the Wanted Raw Foods brand. And number four, from the Homestead build outs.
dang, that's awesome. Okay, and then now you'll be able to show how you're profitable, and that's kind of how you're able to raise money, and then it just kind of goes from there. Very good.
Exactly. Exactly. And, when I look at, for example, just any one property, what's killer about it when I explain it to investors and it finally clicks in their head is when they realize, like, oh, wow, this would have been a viable business model with just one income stream,
Right.
but it's actually one investment that is actually diversified across four. If I would have said this, we're going to buy this land and we're going to just sell it, that would be a reasonable investment opportunity. If I were to say we're going to buy this land and we're going to just help people get their farms up and running and the land will pay, the land is at cost or something like that, and it's break even, that would have actually been a reasonable investment. If I would have said, we're going to buy this land and we're going to put a farm on it and we're going to sell produce from it, that would have been a reasonable investment. And lastly, if I would have said, we're going to buy this land and we're going to build homes on it, this would have been a reasonable investment. But it's all four of them at the same time, and you're helping people and you're helping the planet.
And
And there's tax.
they're kind of uncorrelated with other investments too. Like you don't have to really worry about the market shifting and then not being profitable because
No,
interest
we do better. We do better. We do better either way. If everybody's making a ton of money, they're gonna use that money and they're gonna buy land.
rates.
If there's a huge global economic crash, everybody recognizes that they should have been part of X anyways, and they do it. But since we do seller financing, we don't give a crap what happens in the market. I don't care what happens in the bank to the banks
Right.
because I'm not a bank. I don't care.
Yeah.
Like we do, it's independent.
Wow. So, okay. So, what's the long-term vision? Like, because I saw on your website, you guys are never selling this thing. So, are you just going to own every piece of land in the country, or what is the end goal? Like, where do you see this going?
Well, it's not me that owns it, it's you that owns it.
Right. Right. Okay. Yeah.
Technically speaking, I'm just helping you do that. Now, the long-term vision is that I'll tell you straight up. I have strategically found locations that are in the central part of every state, but 60 to 90 minutes away from major business hubs. By the end of next year, we will own lands in Florida, Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina, Virginia, Pennsylvania, Tennessee, Texas, Montana, Idaho, California, Hawaii. And these lands are large enough that we can actually put on airstrips so that we can actually send goods and send resources from one property to the other property, no problem. We can send people from one property to the other property, no problem. And we will have a supply chain network that can go from one to the other, to the other, to the other, to the other. We also have our own fiber optic network so that if there is a system crash, we don't care. We can send food to each other. We've got goods to each other. We have our own water. We have our own everything. So,
Right.
Axe over time will shift to the point that it is not just these individualized neighborhoods. You will have a distributed network of communities that interact with each other with its own, food, its own clothing, its own currency, its own language, its own everything. Um, and there's a level here where in the next 10 years, Axe won't be measured by what's your EBITDA? What's your EBITDA, bro? What's your cash flow, bro? It's gonna be by GDP. I'm dead serious. Like it will literally be by GDP. It'll be, if you think about like Uber is the first taxi company, they don't own taxis. Um, uh, Amazon, largest library, they don't own books, right? Axe is its own country, but we don't own land. That's what's so crazy about it.
Dude, you're gonna be a billionaire, man. If you're not already, jeez, that's crazy. Uh,
Thank you, man. Thank you.
have you got any pushback from like the government or agencies that are catching wind? Like it just seems like this is something that a controlling, well, entity would want to
Yeah, I
back
would say
on.
I would say we don't get pushback at the moment, but that's because I've strategically made it where you can't make the claim like, oh, this is a cult. We have no religious requirements. I mean, I'm Christian, I'm open about my faith, but that's within my right as an American. But some of our top families are Jewish families. We don't have like a required church service. We don't have any required Bible read. We don't have anything that's like that. Like there's nothing that, is like you must do this based off anything like that. It's very laissez-faire. I'm a big believer in freedom. Now, with that said, we have a big military and kind of intelligence community of people that have joined us. So like what basically what I'm trying to get at is that more than is proportionate to the population, right? We have found that there are people that have former military careers or may have had careers in different intelligence agencies. And I'm very aware of what goes on, right? I'm not an idiot. So go ahead. Even if they send their spies, it's like there's nothing to look at here. So honestly, in my opinion,
Yeah,
go
right.
ahead and send them in. We're just gonna report back and say like, yo, like this guy's just legit. The only thing I've
It's
got to
a good
say is,
business model. Nothing else to
yeah,
say.
it's just a good business model. There's nothing else to say.
Dang, that's crazy. All right. So just for someone watching this that's hearing all this and seeing you do all these huge things and they want to change their life, what's some advice you would give somebody just in their personal life, whether it's, doing something with Axe or just in general business and
Yeah.
personal development? What are maybe like three things someone should focus on to, start changing their life?
Yeah, the number one thing is mindset. I'll reduce all three things to just pure mindset and really understanding the deepest level of mindset, which is when you fully understand the power of changing your mindset, you should understand it's not a mindset issue. This is real critical. They won't teach you this. Everybody's using the word mindset, and I'm saying that's too low level. If you really get it, your mindset shift is a lifestyle shift. Okay, because a mindset, I can change my mindset with one song. I can change my mindset with one hype video. Lifestyle is completely different. Lifestyle is a commitment. So to really be successful at Axe, it's all about your level of commitment. What I've consistently found is that the ones who fail, it has nothing to do with our systems. Rotational grazing works. Our subdivision process works. Construction works. The solar works. The wells work. That is not the issue. The biggest thing to hold a person back is their own garbage mentality, their own garbage mindset that gets in the way. For example, trying to rely on what your family's opinion is before you just pull the trigger, right? Let me go and let me get the approval from my mommy and my daddy and my sister and my sister's boyfriend that have completely different ideologies than me before I just say, you know what, let me just put in the parcel. You need to be a leader and you need to be able to say, this is good for my family long term. And if they don't get it right now, they're going to get it soon enough, but I can't listen to them right now when they have their doubts. Because that's what happens. They find us, they talk about us. The parents who don't know anything go, that's too good to be true. It's not possible. And they go, maybe they're right. Maybe they're right. It's too good to be true. I can't, it's not possible. And so they don't take action. So that's the biggest thing a person needs to work on. And then, you go a little bit deeper, you must be relentless. There's this book by Tim Grover. You must read this book by Tim Grover called Relentless. And you have to understand that you have to pursue this harder than you've ever pursued anything else in your life. We started this discussion by me talking about Maslow's hierarchy of needs and what self-actualization actually looks like. I was like, it looks like Michael Jordan, it looks like Kobe Bryant, it looks like Tiger Woods, it looks like Tom Brady. Most people are not willing to make the sacrifices necessary to be the Tom Brady, the Michael Jordan, the Kobe of their lives, and not willing to make the sacrifice to be the Tom Brady, the Michael Phelps, the Michael Jordan of homesteading and pursuing that lifestyle. That must mean saying, I'm going to dedicate my time and my energy and my focus and my money into this. I'm not going to let anything get in the way. I'm not going to let any stupid business excuse or career excuse to get in the way. I need to want this more than I want to breathe. I need to want this more than anything because the devil plays tricks and because there's a real spiritual war going on. And what you find is God will place in God will allow Satan to place in distractions and temptations to see who's actually real about this, right? You're only saved by your faith, not your works, but you show your faith through your works. And so if you're distracted by any little small stupid problem, then you're not going to make it. Like here's a good one, right? Here's a good one. I get the excuse all the time. Oh, I love what you guys are doing at Axe. It's so amazing. And then we'll have a property in a person's state, but it's not close enough to me. It's like, dude, come on. Like you're living in like we'll get people in Tennessee and they'll be like, you're not near Knoxville. So, I don't want to. It's like, dude, you say you want this life and you're upset because we're 2 hours away, not 1 hour away from where you're currently at. You don't really want this. You
Yeah.
see that? It's pathetic to me, right? The person has to want this badly. They have to get over the fact that I exist in the world of capitalism, and so I have to make sales. You have to get over yourself with regards to, oh, is TJ just trying to summon? Get over that. Like, this is as good as it gets. I've done as much as I possibly can do, right? And I don't even have a sales team. You have to figure this out on your own. And then say, you know what? Now that I've looked at it, I want this bad enough. I'm willing to travel. I'm willing to, make this transition. It might be hard. I'm willing to make this investment. Maybe it's going to be a year or two of it being difficult. Okay. You have to pay in the monthly payments. It's like, I'm not going to lie. It's like $4.5 grand, right? Per month for the first, for the first year. Get over yourself, do that. That's a great investment. You have to pay $4,500 for like 12 months. And then you never have to think about that ever again. Are you kidding me? So that's the mindset issue that a lot of people, they just can't get over. I'd like to note that in the movie 1984, they do escape the little 1984 colony, and they get to the point where they're looking out over the lands that, by the way, look like a lot of the lands over at Axe. And if you note, they never just escaped. They never just went out into the free hills. They could have, but they didn't. They went back into the 1984 little slave colony, and that's how they got caught, right? Most people don't even recognize that they're little slaves in the slave colony of 1984. They got the opportunity to go to the hills and be free, but they don't. And what it looks like is not the man. It's not the secret societies or the intelligence agencies. It's your own crap mindset that gets in the way.
Amen. Damn. That's a good, I think that's a good way to end it. So yeah, I think everyone can learn something from this. I think honestly, everyone should think about, if not be set on owning their own land in some capacity, whether that's, just going all in
Right?
right now. It seems like a no-brainer,
What's
especially
the
with the way
point?
things are going.
You know,
Yeah.
it's there's a reason that what God is it the promised money? Like, does he give his people the promised money? Does he give people the promised food or the promised entertainment or no, it's the promised what? The promised land, right? It's the promised land for a reason. It's one of the most important things. So
Okay.
thank
Yeah,
you.
well, DJ, I really appreciate you coming on the show. I know I've learned a lot. I'm inspired. I want to go look more into this, and I want to share this with people so they can see what's out there. I want to get that message out because I think it's a good one. So I
Thank you,
really
Bears.
appreciate you taking the time. Where can people find you? And yeah, anything else you want to say?
Yeah, find us at ActsDereal on Instagram. It's ACTSDEREAL. Again, it's at ACTSDEREAL on Instagram. It'll give you all the instructions, and it's a perfect little area, top of funnel area for you to learn about what we do. And you can go deeper down the rabbit hole and see that we are who we say we are, and we do what we say we do. And this really is a project led by God.
Awesome. All right, everybody, get wealthy.